Thank you so much for having me. And it's amazing to be part of this fantastic conference. This lineup is incredible. And I'm really grateful for being invited to have this slot, to share this slot with you. I'm Niki. I split my time in Vienna and in San Francisco. I'm a speaker coach. I've been working with TED as a TEDx ambassador. I'm going to go into this in a bit. But when I started preparing this talk, for me, it was a little like this, a little spot. And then I went into this and something very interesting happened. It became like this. So I would say this webinar, this talk is dedicated to me. And I'm glad that you're listening while I'm having a conversation with myself, a constant reminder to myself. We're talking about the art of being heard. But when we actually talk about the art of being heard, there's something that we need to understand first, and that's the art of listening. Because being heard and being able to listen are two siblings. And I'm going to explain to you why I think it that way. So here's me. I'm 51. I was in advertising when it was an interesting business. I thought that has changed over time. Stumbled across TED, completely immersed myself into the TED journey. The TEDx journey, became TEDx ambassador. That eventually connected me with someone at Singularity University, where I became faculty coach, and I founded at the innovation agency and the School of Talk, and I started a program called Silicon Valley Inspiration Tours, and expanded this to New York, London, Tel Aviv, Dubai, Mumbai, and Hong Kong in 2018. Did a little of a virtual spiel during the lockdowns, like we all did this, and also doing this right now, this upper body conferences world, where I also started an online community called Exo1. And a friend where I asked him, like, I'm doing so many things, how would you bring together all that I'm doing? And said, Niki, you're a business therapist. And I thought that resonates quite well. So this is why I'm going with the business therapist since then. So I'd like to share this beautiful quote of Julian Treasure with you. He said, when I married my wife, I promised her that I would listen to her every day as if we had met for the first time. The ugly truth is that people only pay half of the attention to what you're saying. And we lost the skills of listening when we invented recording. There's no premium anymore. We can revisit it, even this session, right? You can do whatever you want because this session is recorded. And by the way, it says your screen sharing is paused. I hope you can see my screen. I'm not able to see the chat. Can you just give me
Yes, try maybe stop screen sharing and read. Oh wait, I could redo it.
No. Just a fun part here. I'm having my fun with Keynote. Let's try it again.
Got it.
And can you see the screen now?
Yeah.
Very good. So we lost listening when we invented recording. As I said before, even this session is recorded. So if you feel like you're fading away and you want to check your Facebook wall, feel free to do this because you can go back and watch the recording, right? So you don't even have to listen anymore. And also the world has become louder and louder. It's basically very hard to find a place where it's silent, where you don't really have to extract what's interesting from what's around. It's subtle. And when we ask ourselves why we listen, of course, there are two aspects. One is there's a reason for ourselves, and of course, there is also a reason to listen towards the person we're listening to. That's easy, right? We obtain information, we want to understand, we want to enjoy, we want to learn, we want to grow. And the other person, of course, want to show respect. Maybe we have to help, but we have to understand where help is needed. And when we love and we show love, and listening is definitely love language. As I said before, it's so much noise around that listening is probably a separation skill, making meaning from sounds. And that has a lot to do with culture, with language, with values, with beliefs, with attitudes, with expectation, with intention. With what intention are you listening? For example, when you're listening to me and you have the intention to share with someone else, you're listening in a different way than if your intention is just curiosity. What does Niki have to share with me? Or what can I learn from here? The intention makes a lot of difference. But it's also really hard work. And it's a real commitment because our minds are constantly racing between topics. The world has become a now place. Everything is happening right now. And now is also has taught us that we can get along well with a very shortened attention span. So here's the problem: when people feel like they're not heard, they talk louder and they give more unnecessary content and information. and give us at the same time lack of reason to listen to them. Right? If I don't give you a reason to listen to me, you'll stop listening to me. If I feel like no one's listening to me, I'll probably talk even more and add even more noise to the general sound that we have around. So we have to relearn to listen. But of course, we also have to make ours more enjoyable to listen to. So here you can understand how both things come together. So how can we better listen better? We have to understand what is between the words, what are the nonverbals. It supports the perception of what's been seen and heard. Um, we have to understand the posture. Also, we have to give a certain posture. When we talk to someone and we stand to that person, that's a commitment. But when I talk to you like this, I'm telling you that I can walk away from that conversation just like this. The facial expression, we have 80 muscles in our face. Most of them are choppers when we're talking. So do you smile? Do you frown? Are you actually conscious about your facial expression? And eye contact is something that also really connects when you're listening to someone and you want someone to listen to you. By the way, we live in I call this pandemic. So when you listen to people, you might realize that people are having a hard time saying a sentence or two without fillers. So there are a lot of ums and Rs and all the time. And that also stems from the fact that we look around all the time instead of looking into the camera when we're on Zoom or looking into the eyes when we have a conversation. When you put your hand behind your head, that's the visual cortex. That's the largest real estate in your brain. When you look around while you're talking, your brain has to process a lot of unnecessary information. And is also your brain buying time to deal with that unnecessary information. It has nothing to do with what you intend to share. Or when you think of, I don't know, I want to be very smart. I want to be very perfect with how I respond. You talk a lot of your head, you start with arms and fingers. But eye contact, to come back to this, is a really, really nice way of showing interest in the person and also avoiding, when you talk to someone, avoiding these annoying fingers. Amy Cuddy, when we speak about body language, made research, and it's really interesting. And there's a great TED talk I can recommend, and I'm showing to you an extract in a second, how your body language, how your posture actually extracts or initiates a chemical process in your brain that you make different decisions and you also a different appearance.
In our studies, if people stand like Wonder Woman for 2 minutes, their testosterone increases significantly, their cortisol drops significantly, they are more risk-taking. In other people's studies, we find that their pain threshold is higher, they think more abstractly, and they are more likely to do well in very stressful situations like interviewing for a job.
The way of showing that you're interesting is that you actually ask, right? If I talk for an hour and you never interrupt me, that tells me that you actually not listening to me, because there's no way that you can fully understand everything that I'm saying to you when I talk for an hour. So when you interrupt me and you don't understand, because you don't understand, it doesn't mean that a person doesn't understand. It actually means that your person is listening to me. And it's a nice proof of respect and absolutely not a shame. What we also do is when you're in conversations, and probably know better for yourself, but when you're talking to someone or when someone's talking to you, when do you start rehearsing your answer? Most of the time, after the third or fourth word, you know where the sentence is going. So that means that you have time to rehearse your answer already. That also means that the moment I'm done talking, because you've been waiting so long for your answer, you shoot it out. That also gives me the feeling that you're not really listening to me, because if you're listening to me, you would need to have some time to process what I've said and not be able to shoot out the answer right away. Oh yeah, and then of course also when we have this thing of sharing an opinion, maybe sometimes it's just about listening and not responding with an opinion, which is also a nice sign, a nice proof of I listen to you, and when I listen to you and I'm not responding with an opinion, just listening, you will probably also enjoy more listening to me. Opinions and judgments are a tricky thing. I think I can let this stand for its own. So that's one part. Let's talk about the things that are not being said.
Communication skills are words. What percentage? 7%, which means you're leaving out 93% of your skills.
So we have to make sure that everything that we have available supports the instrument, the vocal cord. And of course, tone of voice is something that we can adjust with our vocal cord, but it's something that tells a lot, right? When I'm speaking up, I think that I want to make sure that everyone thinks I'm important. When I'm speaking very silently, I will probably tell you that what I'm saying I think is very important, so you better listen hard. Same with the speed of voice. If I'm racing through my talk, I'm going to tell you, so my body language is I want to get away from this situation because I don't feel very comfortable. If I go slowly, I probably lose you anyways. And as I said before, the facial expression. My kids spend hours in front of the mirror trying out different facial expressions, which was very weird to me because I felt like they're vain and they just want to look at their own faces. But today, when you have a conversation with them, it's a real joy because everything in their face is talking as well, not only the mouth. As I said before, intuition makes a huge difference. And that's where we come to make yourself enjoyable to listen to, the art of being heard. Very often, we misunderstand the job of what we're doing. When we give a talk, we might want the audience to understand. When we pitch, we might someone to have an action. But we have to be very conscious about what is the job of a conversation. And most of the time is igniting curiosity and buying time for more. If I speak to you for 15 minutes now, the job of the 15 minutes is you want more of this. You want to read something, you want to hear something, you want to have a conversation of this, not to fully understand. No way you can fully understand and record everything that I'm saying because there's a lot of information packed into a short talk. And of course, the phrases that have found their way into language. You have to understand me. Listen to me. Hey, I got a point here. This is all these kinds of things that are embedded in our language tell us already our culture, how we are being wrong with what is the job of me talking about something to you. Humor is something that can be learned. I recommend a book called Improv Wisdom. If you feel you're not funny and you want to make people laugh, then learn it first, but it can be learned. Taking yourself not too seriously is a good way of acquiring a sense for humor, for being funny. As I said before, volume and speed goes in both directions. Silence doesn't make you smart, and fast doesn't make you sound knowledge. And then this one thing that it's totally okay to say nothing. Are you adding value with what you're saying, or am I adding value with what I'm saying? Okay. The arms are also part of this. I mentioned the arms before because they give me physical pain, to be honest. But the arms are also something that we use to fill the silence when we have to think. But it's totally okay not to feel like I have 15 minutes now or 18 minutes. It's totally okay to give a quick pause to what I'm saying next, because that's building a stage instead of constantly filling everything with silence. The number one question, it's the hardest question, is like, would you actually enjoy listening to yourself? It's a good reflection moment here. What you're saying, what you're talking about, is it something that you would enjoy listening to? Maybe you also want to reverse and figure out, how am I adding value to the room? How am I adding value to thoughts? How am I changing people's lives in terms of giving them something that helps them or is able to be weaved into the fabric of their life so they make different decisions in their lives? And that's me being done with this very brief talk. And there's this beautiful saying that no one ever said, such a pity he didn't speak a minute longer. So I'm ending this screen sharing dilemma here and opening it up. Sorry for the hiccups. That was a very quick talk, but I think there's a lot to think about when you think about how am I being actually good at listening, or supposed to, how can I make sure that people are listening to me?
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Niki. That was fantastic. And thank you for sharing all your knowledge of this. We appreciate it. And now we've got about 4 minutes, just under 5 minutes. But if anyone has questions or thoughts or concerns, pose them here to Niki. Looks like Gail might have something.
I do.
Gail.
Hi. So I'm one of those people who isn't quick to
Yes, leaders.
respond to things. I like to take it all in. I like to think about it, sometimes for a couple days, so that how I respond is informed and thoughtful. But I work in an environment where it's kind of the opposite, where people are very quick to jump in. So I don't know if you have any strategies for how I can effectively, you know, hours or even a couple days later, be a part of that conversation still. Does that make sense?
So yeah, absolutely. How are you doing it right now?
I mean, I bring things up when usually I spend time thinking through something. I might even put together a project brief of recommendations, and I present it at a later time. I'm wondering how that's perceived, though. You know, do
So the question is, if you
businesses
sorry.
more value people who like jump in right away and have a solution? Or how do you create that value within an organization? Am I making any sense?
So yeah, absolutely. So the answer is, a new solution always adds value, but very often it's just noise and doesn't sound like a solution. And when you feel like, I want to process, the only thing I think what makes sense is to ask for permissions. That I would like to process this. Can I get back to you? Can I have your emails, or how can I get in touch? Because you will hear from me in 48 hours. But I would like to, so right the moment you ask for permission, people are basically ready to receive something from you. And I don't think that people would say like, hey, I want your answer right now. I'm not interested in your answer and your opinion in 2 days from now, right? But if you go like, hey, there's a lot of food for thought, and I don't want to rush with an answer. Or maybe I would like to do a little more research, and you ignited curiosity, right? Things that are, just tell me that, hey, here's something that landed, but you don't want to throw it back with an opinion that you might regret. So if you ask for permission that, hey, I'd like to get back in 48 hours, I'm sure that'll be fine. Even in an
Okay.
industry that's very fast, and most of these industries are very fast, they're also very cynical. And I think cynicism is toxic, and you can bring some peace into a very toxic environment when you slow it down a little.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion, because it is really stressful for me. It creates anxiety when I feel like I'm not part of the conversation, but I'm also not ready to talk about it yet, you know? Okay.
Yeah, and that's fair. It's fair, but you know that, right? You know that you're not ready to talk about it. You know that it might take you a day or two, and you
Right.
know that you might want to talk about this in a day or two. So that's the only thing that you need to tell people.
Right. Obviously, if it's a crisis situation, I don't necessarily have a day or two to think about it, but